Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. As I was promising before, that there is a free crank puller, free with every clutch, cosa clutch that is. So if you've got a cosa clutch in your Px125, 150 etc, 200, this little beastie just undo the nut and the washer. So this comes through the crank, through the oil seal, and then you just put that on inside, that way round, sorry. Now you've got your washer on there and you just tighten your bolt and that will pull that crank all the way through. Works every time, and it'll pull it in straight because of the machining on there. So that's your washer, that on there, and look how far it goes in, perfectly all the way. That's my tip for today anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the crank in. As you can see, it's bone dry, but I've made the decision I'm going to change it anyway. I've got a few, so pointless not changing it. So I'll just take that out with a screwdriver and I'll cut back in again. I've taken the old oil seal out. You can't get them out without busting them anyway. But that's the gap between the ring, the circlip, and the edge of the casing, which if you just do the sums in here, there is a little gap. See that? So that's fine, that's inside that measurement. A lot of people measure here, but if you look at here, it's got a banded part which actually goes inside the circlip, and that is a lot deeper. That's 5.7, call it 5.70. And the only way you're going to get across there and find out how far that is to put a straight edge in there, like a ruler, which I should have under here. As you can see, I've taken the old bearing out. Can't really judge one to the other when it's mashed up like that, but oil seal, not bearing, sorry. And what we need to do is put a straight edge on the casing across, and then just measure with your whatever you've got. Basically you want to measure so that it is, if I make that bigger, what we can do to be 100% precise is put it on the edge of my tool. Right. Then put the tool underneath, because if you think of it, that's that side. And we've got a gap, haven't we? I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but we have got a gap, and we've got a gap, not massive gap. What I probably need to do is lock it off a bit harder than that, because I did feel it move. Yeah, it did move slightly. Right, let's lock that off. On the other side, I'll put that across the top again, because that's where we measured from and down. And I don't know if you can see, let me get my feeler gauges, which are probably still out here somewhere. Just crank out the way. Right, so I found my feeler gauges. let's put a 1mm on there. That's 1mm. Well, it's greater than 1mm actually, which is fine. That bearing should work just pushed in. So I've got in effect over 1mm clearance. I could be more precise, but I've got that sort of clearance between the bearing back and that surface there. But as I said before, if you're willing to take the chance of rubbing this slightly down, so what you're going to do then is you're going to move the oil seal edge towards the crank, seal it even more. I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's even worth doing that, but what I'm going to do is get a rag and a clean rag and give that a nice clean. What I was trying to actually show you was, before I do anything, I'm just going to put the oil seal onto the crankshaft. If I get my hands to de-stick so I can get these bloody gloves on. They're great when you've got dry hands, rubbish when you haven't. And I don't know if anybody else is finding them, since the COVID epidemic they don't seem to be as thick as they were, and I'm going through them like 5 or 6 a day, where you know, maybe change them once to build an engine. But such is life. Right, so I've got the crankshaft, and what I'm just going to do is just offer the oil seal up, make sure it goes on nice. Yeah, that's a good fit. There will be a gap obviously, but you see what I'm saying, or I was trying to say earlier, there's the difference between just on and fully on is not very far on that lip. I know they put the lip there so that the oil seal will drive on, but it's not a great distance to go over that lip. That would actually clear the crank, so you're looking at, you know, 2.023, something like that. See if I can get the feeler gauge in. Let's try 0.4 at the moment. Yeah, so 0.4 is 40, that is just under half a mil, and it still seals. So yeah, so basically put the crank away. What we can do is we can take a bit of that edge off and bring the oil seal further forward, like I said. I'm quite happy measuring that it actually does fit without touching. That'll clear without touching. It's hard to sort of show you what I'm talking about, but that ridge there is going to be nowhere near touching that bearing. Oh, the bloody glove's still not pulling on. For how long they last anyway, but such is life. Trying to get all scientific, but if you knock that in and it touches the bearing and the bearing's restricted in turning, then you've got to pull it out because you're wasting your time. That's basically all I'm trying to say. And the oil seal hits the floor again. Brilliant. Moving you up again. This magic tool, see what it does as well? You use the clutch compressor, and again use the inner part of the cosa clutch, bolt through the middle, all lined up, and all you got to do then is just tighten it. Takes 2 spanners or a socket, but that's it. Let me just shift that into there. And just gradually tighten that up, and you can see it's pulling in. Hopefully you can see it's pulling in. Probably better off to get a socket on there, aren't I? Yeah, 17 or 19 is it? Yeah, and we could just use our socket then. We're not hammering in. Not hammering in our oil seal, we're just driving it. Can you see that going in? Then all we just want to do is pull it so it's level. I'm just going to undo that again. Right, I've taken the tool out. As you can see, that is nice and level and the bearing's moving as free as a bee. So what we can actually do now is we can put our crank in, grease up this surface slightly, not over mad, but put a nice bit of grease in there, and on the crankshaft. With these Viton seals, they are harder. They're harder on the edge, so I would say just put a tiny bit of grease around here, bit on the where the bearing pulls in, and then obviously then we can use our tool again, our magic tool that we've invented. We push that in again by hand, and again don't forget we want that out of the way. So if I turn that around again, and tighten up. Just get it so it's starting. That's it. And bear in mind, this I can't pull it in out of true. It can only pull it in levelly. Levelly. Oh, my screwdriver again now, that one. The magic mushroom screwdriver that I always lock the bottom of the crankshaft off. There we are. We can pull that in a little bit more. Right, turn that a few times. Now we want our washer on. So again, just lock off the crankshaft. You can buy a tool that basically holds the con rod in place. Screwdriver does the same job. You can see how free that's moving. Lovely. Right, so now I want to put that washer back on and just make it, that's it, it's sat on there, and put our nut back on again. I screwed it in enough. Yeah, we're on there, and this time we can pull the crank all the way home. Right, turn our socket back on there. That's it. Put our screwdriver back in again to lock the crank. You could probably hold that, to be honest with you, because that's tightening up by, I'm not even locking it, tightening up by holding, but this is easier. Nearly all the way in now, maybe just a tad more. All we want to do is just do it so that it, I'm underneath the crank, the con rod there. We just need to do it so that it's tight. That'll lock off in a sec. There we go. That crankshaft is more or less home now. That's tight, so all I'm going to do now is just unlock that. And we should have a nice free turning crankshaft, which we have. And our magic tool can go back to being a clutch again.